Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jeff Ryan's coming to you again with Foundation of Civilization in Our Changing World, and there is something that I wanted to address. There are, especially as we get into this, we're getting closer and closer to the election cycle, and a lot of people, well, it's turned into a continuous election cycle, which is actually a problem whenever you look at civilizations throughout history. There's a ton of arguments about economics, and honestly, everything that we do comes down to economics. Often, economists bring up the economic cycles and how well the economy is doing, and they do all kinds of analysis and make all kinds of wild predictions and claims, some of which I thought were ridiculous, some of which turns out to be actually very accurate. The the people you really have to be concerned about when you're listening to economics are the politicians. Now, if if you lay every economist end to end, you still wouldn't reach a conclusion. They have challenges when analyzing economics. Now imagine how poorly politicians analyze economics. Politicians claim credit when the economy does well, and they lay blame on their opponents when the economy is doing poorly. One of the key points about economics is that they often work in waves. The whole system works together. Now, the first wave that you look at is a new technology wave. When the cotton gin was developed, railroads, telegraph, automobiles, aircraft, they each you had to build up the capacity to produce this equipment or whatever it was, and then it had to spread out into the market and to be able to sustain the market. These innovations increase individual ability and decrease cost to provide a need: the food, the shelter, safety, the sense of love and belonging or self-fulfillment that we have. Cotton gin provided us the ability to make fabrics and more clothing. Railroads provided transportation. Telegraph gave us communication. Automobiles gave us ability to transport goods and people. Aircraft, same thing, only a lot faster. Well, as they started in a new market, this new technology would take a while, work its way up there. People would come up with ideas and try to find new investors so that everybody could benefit from this new technology. And then somewhere along the lines, somebody said, hey, you know what, this is actually a great idea, and a ton of money flows into it, and you see this massive increase over a short period of time, and until it hits about 90%, and then people start to level off, and the number of businesses start to shrink. They get bought out by other businesses. Now, as the new technology becomes mainstream, it joins the other economic cycles. And the economic cycles go through a phase of expansion. This is when the economy grows, gross domestic product grows. It's increasing. You got lots of consumer confidence and new spending. New businesses emerge, and sometimes those provide new technologies for the markets. Existing companies expand their operations and productions. Then it reaches a peak. Somehow or another, nature just says, hey, all right, we've reached as far as we can go. And this marks a transition phase from expansion phase to the contraction phase. In the contraction phase, it's characterized by slowdown in economic activity. Businesses face declining sales and start making cuts, and unemployment begins to rise. Then we hit a trough. This is where everybody thinks that the worst has happened and nothing will ever be good again. It represents the end of contraction and the transition point to a new expansion phase. Now, those who are prepared and paying attention, they get ready for the new expansion phase. They realize that at some point this expansion changes, the contraction changes to expansion. And this is where Demand bottoms out, and businesses, a lot of businesses at this phase will struggle or even close. Currently, my business is in the actually the economy is in the contraction phase, and my business is feeling it. There are a number of cycles that have been defined by different people. One of them is the kitchen cycle, named after a Joseph Kitchen. This is a short business cycle, about 40 months, and he identified this in the 1920s. And this accounts for time lags and information movement affected by decision making of commercial firms. Then there is the juggler cycle, identified in 1862 by Clement Jugler. This is an investment cycle of 7 to 11 years. There are oscillations of investments in fixed capital, and not just changes in the level of employment of the fixed capital. Then we have the Kuznets swing or Kuznets cycle. This is claimed to be an economic wave about 15 to 25 years, identified in the 1930s by Simon Kuznets. And this is associated with the demographic process. And this is the first thing that I want you to pay attention to is demographics are key. They're extremely important. New technology is extremely important too, but the foundation of everything is demographics. The Kuznets waves are inflows and outflows, particularly with immigrant inflows and outflows, change in construction intensity, and they are denoted as demographic or building cycle swings. We have a generation cycle, which is a 40-year cycle. This is, again, associated with demographics. And then we also have an 80-year cycle. At 40 years, what happens in the generation cycle is that you have a new generation come in, and at about 20 years, they reach adulthood, and they start having children. And then at 40 years, their children are starting to reach their adult phase, and those 40-year-old adults, approaching 50-year-old adults, are now saving money. Well, they've been spending money for the past 20 years, and you can watch the cycles, the economy grow as those cycles spread out. And then at 80 years, you see a lot of these people, you see this massive contraction as the spending declines. One of the most famous economic cycles are the Kondratiev waves. And these are what they call super cycles, great surges, long wave, K waves, or the long economic cycles. This phenomenon is closely connected to the technology cycle. As the political season continues, and I guess we ought to note that the political cycles are 2 years, 4 years, and 6 years for the United States. Other places, they have a little bit different cycles. Those different cycles do not align with each other. Politicians are some of the worst grandstanders to ever exist. Like I said, they take credit when the economy is doing well, even if they had nothing to do with it. And they lay blame on their opponents, even if their opponents had no influence on the economy. Bill Clinton still takes credit for the 1990s economic boom and government surplus, even though the economy was already geared towards growth because 20 years previously, the people had been having children. And the government had planned a massive military cut that gave us the government surplus before he came into office. But, politicians, they like to take credit. The economic waves exist outside of politicians. They can influence the economics a bit, but just as we cannot stop waves at the beach, if you go stand in the surf and put your hands out, you're not stopping the wave. We cannot stop economic waves. They will eventually hit us. Now, if we work hard enough, maybe we can divert some of those waves at the shoreline, but eventually we're going to get wet. As you listen to all the economists, the pundits, and especially politicians, I also want to note that I remember back in 2006 and 2007, a lot of people warned us that the 2008 economic downturn was going to hit, because they looked at the way that the new financial models, the new bonds had been set up, and they're like, this isn't going to last. This is going to hurt. And they warned, I remember watching the videos, warning the politicians, you need to do something. The politicians, whoa, what's wrong? I don't understand. A lot of people needed to go to jail, and as it turns out, there's only one person who ended up going to jail. But, politics and economics. So as you listen to the economist, pundits, and especially politicians, take their information with a grain of salt, do a lot of research before you fall for their proposals. Right now, I would recommend anybody who's in Washington, D.C., they need to go. You need to remove them and replace them. But what do I know? I'm just some pundit out here on YouTube. I hope that you guys are doing well. Hope that y'all are paying attention, and I hope you recognize that we are in the midst not just of a U.S. economic downturn, but a worldwide economic downturn. At some point, I'll do some work on the demographics around the world. It is very frightening out there, and that's probably one of the reasons why we see some of the challenges that are coming, that are arising right now. Please like, share, and subscribe. Jeff Rains, Foundation of Civilization. Much love to everybody. I look forward to talking to you guys again soon, and we'll see you then.